Friends, today on Know the Cause, you're going to learn a brand new word. I learn them all the time. Now it's your turn. Candida Lysin. Candida Lysin. What is that? Don't worry, I'll put it in English for you. I think it'll help everyone. In the opening of today's show, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS. We've heard a lot about that. But did you know you can report to VAERS? I'll teach you how to do that on today's show. French toast sticks, Kaufman 1 French toast sticks. Amazing. Abby is in the kitchen across the campus and she does a great job of these. So good. Eat, Pray, Get Well. Erin Porter is here today to talk about a surgery she had called a Mohs procedure and all she's been through. Why? Because of fungus. Stay tuned, watch.
For the past 45 years, I have dedicated my life and my whole career to finding the root cause of disease. And I now know with certainty that we must play a role in our own health care. I'm a self-care advocate, and you know what? Every time you change your diet for the better, exercise, or swallow a nutritional supplement, so are you. Now welcome to Know the Cause.
You know, in my file from 10, 11 years ago was a report on vaccine injury from Harvard, Harvard Pilgrim and Harvard Medical School that I think I need to bring to your attention, folks. It talked about vaccine injuries and the reporting of them. Okay, so just go with me here. There's so many people wanting to know the results, and I think we all need to know the results of any vaccine. Okay, and the most important reason I'm bringing you this, I try and bring you information on my show every day, is to apprise you that if a doctor or a drug company isn't going to report an adverse event you had a day, an hour, or a week after any vaccine, you can. Okay, so here we go. It's called VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. VAERS database contains information on unverified reports of adverse events, illnesses, health problems, or symptoms following immunization with U.S. licensed vaccines. Anyone can report adverse events. When I saw that on their website, I thought, wait a minute, we get to report? Yeah. I think when we report, then the drug companies look at our report and make the decision as to if this was a real adverse reaction or not. Okay, you can report negative reactions that you or a loved one has or had following any vaccine given. This is good for us. From adenovirus to zoster vaccine, there are at least 89 here in America FDA-approved vaccines. But wait a minute. Aren't doctors supposed to file these reports? Look, if I were a doctor, I always say this, if I were a doctor seeing 40 patients a day, running to the hospital, doing rounds, getting to work at 6 in the morning, you know, I would hope I'd have the office staff to report if one of my patients or 10 of my patients have an adverse vaccine reaction. These are busy people, and they have emergency after emergency to see, okay? So sometimes this doesn't get done. What I want you to know is we, in America, can report these ourselves. I'll give you the website and all the information, so get a pencil out before this segment ends. Here's the 11-year-old report I found from Harvard, and I'm gonna read it verbatim. Adverse events from drugs and vaccines are common, but underreported. What? Although 25%, 1 in 4 people who can walk in experience an adverse drug reaction, less than 0.3, 0.3% of all adverse drug events, and only 1 to 13% of serious events are reported to the FDA. That's drugs. Adverse drug events in medicine are, everything has an acronym. They're called ADEs. You can also report that to our FDA. And folks, no matter where you're watching, I know we're in a couple hundred countries, there are agencies that oversee the safety of prescribed medication, one of them being vaccines, okay? Likewise, this report continues from Harvard, fewer than 1%. What is it, 0.001? That's fewer than 1. Fewer than 1% of vaccine adverse events are reported. Low reporting rates preclude or slow identification of problem drugs and vaccines that endanger public health. Thank you, Harvard, for putting that in. That's true. New surveillance methods for drug and vaccine adverse events are needed. I salute them. They are needed. Oh, they never came along. 1% get reported. It's almost, God forgive me for saying this, 1%. Now we have a brand new pandemic. A couple years ago this started. How many adverse events are we seeing? This is an experimental vaccine at this point. How many adverse reactions are we seeing? Fewer than 1% are being reported. Folks, when you have, I hate to use this analogy, but you have the fox guarding the hen house. If a doctor reports an adverse event, the drug companies take a look at it and say, yeah, that was an adverse, or no, that isn't. Is there a problem here? Thank you, Harvard. Here is how you can report it here in the US. I'll leave this up for a good 30 seconds. It's World Wide Web dot VAERS dot Health and Human Services, HHS dot government, okay? www.vaers.hhs.gov to report a bad reaction to a vaccine. Sometimes, guys, it's up to us. Help your doctor. He or she is very busy. If there has been a true, not a little itching or swelling, a true bad reaction afterwards, please report it. You know, I'm so proud to call her a friend. Erin Porter has written a book. I met Erin 7, 8 years ago, something like that. Eat, Pray, and Get Well is the name of the book. She has been through so much. When we talk in the green room, when I see you, you were here a couple years ago. And Don Dennis did some work on you, has helped you through your sinus problem, Dr. Don Dennis in Atlanta. But when I see what you have been through, and I want to post something here, it's graphic, but I want you to see it. This is called a Mohs procedure. I remember doing these when I worked in dermatology. That's you, Erin. That's you on the left and you on the right. Walk me through that. What had transpired there?
Well, I had a tiny little spot about the size of a freckle.
Yeah.
And never imagined it would turn out to be, you know, skin cancer, basal cell.
Yeah.
But underneath, you know, it was probably the size of maybe a nickel. So that I had to get the flaps from the forehead and the cheek and have the reconstructive.
And during that procedure, they take samples, you know, to make sure they got it all, which I think is great. It's called Mohs, M-O-H-S, procedure that doctors can do. I'm looking at you now thinking, wow.
He did a good job.
Maybe makeup is great, but that guy was an amazing doctor. Tell me a little bit about a word called aspergilloma. First of all, can you define that word, and then can you tell us how it was diagnosed?
It was diagnosed finally, I believe, by our wonderful friend Dr. Dennis in Atlanta.
Okay. And
I had already had chronic sinus infections for probably 25 years before I went to Dr. Dennis. And he is the one that diagnosed it as aspergillomas. I had already known I had a fungus called curvularia, you know, that I was trying to get rid of. But what was interesting is that I learned it's those same aspergillomas that can grow in your lungs and oftentimes get misdiagnosed for cancer. So sometimes I think, you know, if it hadn't have been where you can see it with a scope and a good doctor who knows what he's looking at, and it had been in my lungs instead, I just wonder if I would have gotten that cancer diagnosis. So it taught me, if anyone ever says, we see a lump, we see a mass in your lungs, I would definitely send that out for fungus. You know.
And not only that, how many women have polycystic, you know, ovarian disease, polycystic kidney disease? How many have, you know, masses growing in your sinuses, your colon, right? It just amazes me how they're all cancer or, you know, just a polyp. But you got to rule out fungus. Even the Center for Disease Control is now saying, think fungus. It's like they're shaking doctors. You know a lot about bacteria, a lot about viruses, or so we thought. But think fungus. You know, it's time we think fungus. How did fungus impact you? What was the worst that it caused you?
I had symptoms head to toe. I would say the scariest symptom was probably the heart arrhythmia. The most frustrating was the sinuses. I had 4 surgeries, and there was nothing. There was no amount of antibiotic surgery that was going to heal these sinuses because I didn't know what I was dealing with. And ironically, you know, the doctor gives you antibiotics for your sinus infection, and if the Mayo Clinic is correct, which I think it is, you're feeding the fungus that's in your sinuses and making yourself worse.
With the antibiotics?
With the antibiotics.
It blows me away that our brightest and best don't understand this simple concept. You brought this up. Aspergillomas are well published as, guys, before you diagnose you know, liver, kidney diseases, rule out fungus, especially aspergillomas, pulmonary aspergillomas. This is an aspergillus fungus that grows in a ball, and it mimics lung cancer. And I have to wonder how many people are getting chemotherapy today because they have a fungal condition in their lung. According to science, quite a few. How did you finally get better? Or do you consider yourself always improving?
I would say always improving, because we talked about it earlier. I do have that MTHFR gene. So I think, and I was hit so hard, I think that I always have to be careful. I have to be careful what I eat. I have to be careful of buildings that I go into. But I feel good. I feel better than I did when I was 19, 20, 21 years old, more energy, and I live a completely different lifestyle now.
Wow. It was 18 years old. She moved to Manhattan, moved into Imagine. It was probably a $10,000 a month flat, but it was loaded with mold. She kept getting sicker and sicker while her girlfriends all went out at lunch. She pretended she was going out at lunch somewhere else and went to a different doctor all the time. The story is in the book, and this should become a runaway bestseller. Eat, Pray, and Get Well. Same URL, eatpraygetwell.com. Buy a copy. Buy a Christmas gift. Buy 10 of them. Thank you, Erin, for coming in.
Thanks
for
having
Good to see you
me.
again.
Thanks.
Hey folks, I think when I say Candida albicans, and there's subsets of Candida, but when I say Candida albicans, you guys pretty much know it's a yeast, right? And I want to talk a little bit about this yeast because I think we're guilty of somatics sometimes. We're misnaming what poisons are made by some of these, okay? Bacteria makes poisons, fungus make poisons, etc. Candida albicans, one of the most important human fungal pathogens, is Candida albicans, which causes millions of skin and mucosal, mouth, vaginal, gut, etc., and life-threatening systemic infections each year. Recently was discovered that an invasive form of Candida albicans secretes a cytolytic peptide toxin called Candidalysin. These peptides, folks, are amino acids that are bound together in chains, more than 2 amino acids bound together in chains. Candidalysin, you say, Doug? Yes. First peptide identified just a few years ago as a human fungal pathogen. Get that. Candidalysin is the first peptide toxin identified as a human fungal pathogen. Then we go down, lysin critical for Candida mucosal and systemic infections. It activates danger response and damaging pathways in host cells, that's us. It activates epidermal skin growth factor receptor in epithelial cells. It drives neutrophil recruitment and type 17 immunity. And here's what you want to know in English, Doug, please. Okay, you're going to get Doug's take. You see the Journal of Infectious Disease, circa 2019 at the bottom, says Candidalysin seems to play a role in neutrophil recruitment and fungal virulence during disseminated systemic Candida albicans infections. Above that, I give you my 2 cents. Although I believe it behaves like a mycotoxin, and it's involved in the induction of liver disease from alcohol, Candidalysin is considered an exotoxin, not a mycotoxin. It destroys human cells by forming holes in their membranes. Wait a minute, mycotoxins do that, thereby injuring the immune system. Wait a minute, mycotoxins do that. Okay, but for you and I, here's what I want to drive home, folks, and I'll always be that guy who tries to drive this home. I believe that knowing how a germ invades and injures you is far less important than preventing it from infecting your body in the first place. Lifestyle choices, including antibiotics, birth control pills, alcohol consumption, to name a few, influence whether Candida albicans remains a harmless organism in your body or becomes a pathogen. We have to choose wisely, okay? And I added this postscript because I am so confused. Folks, science to me is not static. Every day I learn something new, as does science. So when we have 100% faith in science today, that's awesome. It'll change tomorrow. Then we'll have 100% faith in science tomorrow, okay? Okay, so here's my final graphic on this, and it asks the question, are these exotoxins or mycotoxins? Exotoxins are toxins secreted by bacteria, not fungi. But mycotoxins are toxins secreted by fungi, not bacteria. And this paper was drafted about a fungi. Candida albicans is a single-celled fungus. It's not a bacteria. Why are scientists calling Candida Lysin an exotoxin if it's being secreted by a fungus? That makes it a mycotoxin. Folks, you're going to find that science rapidly evolves and changes. I read a lot of science books, and I read one book only that teaches me the truth. My interpretation may alter from year to year. It's called the Holy Bible. Stick with that one, and you'll do well.
Hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make some fancy French toast. Now what I'm using for bread is the Kaufman Everyday Bread. This is on our website. You can get the full recipe there, but I've already got some made, so I'm going to show you how to make this into our fancy French toast. For the wet ingredients for the batter that we're going to use, I've got 3 eggs. I've got some coconut milk here. You can also use almond milk, that works fine. Or any other kind of unsweetened nut milk that you may want to use. Put all that in there. Then we've got some vanilla. And for our special ingredient, we've got orange zest. Now this is just a little bit of orange zest from the rind. There's no juice in here. Just gonna add a little bit of extra citrus flavor to that. Let's go ahead and mix this all up. All right, that's ready to go. So over here. Now I've got about 5 slices of the bread, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slice them into long strips so they're kind of like sticks. Just gonna go ahead and slice these through. Here. Okay, I've got these ready to go. Let's turn on our little stove, get that ready. Let that heat up a little bit. Okay, my pan is hot. I've got some coconut oil in there to just kind of grease it up and everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a stick, I'm gonna dunk it in the mixture, in the egg mixture. Gonna let some of that extra kind of run off, and then just go ahead and place it in. And then just keep doing that until your pan is full. Now these French toast sticks are great to do beforehand if you've got a lot of people coming over and you want to have kind of a big breakfast. If you want to do some meal prep and you want to make sure you have something fun to eat for breakfast, or if you just want to have a pretty tasty snack, it's really good. Just gonna let these cook for a little bit longer on this side before I flip them over. Now, once these are done on both sides, I'm gonna immediately put them into a mixture of, I've got some granulated monk fruit, or any Kaufman approved sweetener that you wanna use, and cinnamon. So it's kind of like that cinnamon sugar mixture, except it's not actually sugar. But I'm gonna immediately toss them into there and start to roll them around a little bit. coated. You want to make sure you do this when they're hot, or at least still pretty warm, because otherwise they won't have the cinnamon and sugar mixture stick to them. Come back to other guys. You're ready. These need to cook just a tiny bit longer. And there you go. You've got a nice little plate of your French toast sticks. These are great to have on hand if you've got guests coming over, if you've got family, or if you just, again, really want to have your own sweet treat for breakfast. The cinnamon sweetener mixture with the orange rind, with the bread, it kind of tastes like Christmas morning. It's really good. I really want you guys to try this because this makes me really happy. Please try this. The whole recipe is on knowthecause.com. None of these foods feed fungus, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But please make these. Let me know how you like them on Facebook at our Know the Cause coffin page. And guys, have a great day. I can't talk. These are really good. Have a great day.
Friends, the employees here, the filmmakers, editors, etc., makeup people, they graduate from film school and they get to work here. Now those French toast sticks, you should see them go. After we're done filming, Abby stands there and watches the guys just go for them. They should pay us to be here instead of the other way around. Great group of people. What'd you think of today's show? Isn't it interesting? Remember VAERS.HHS, Health and Human Services.gov, to report an adverse event. I would always go back to the doctor and say, look, I had a huge reaction to that shot, if you did, and if the doctor won't report it, perhaps you can or you should. Erin Porter, thank you so much, Erin. Eat, pray, get well. What she has been through is absolutely amazing. And then the new word, Candida Lysin. Isn't that fascinating, folks? The field I love, mycology, is the study of fungus. It's a drum I've been beating for 45 years. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.